In this tutorial, I will show you how we can trace an algorithm using a trace table. I'll be doing this on a spreadsheet. However, it is actually easier to work on paper with a pencil and handwrite your answers. So we have here an algorithm. We're not quite sure what it does yet, but the important thing with a trace table is that you just follow the instructions. You don't try to work out what's going on. You don't try to make any shortcuts. You just do what it says at each line. Although I've only declared one variable here, new, as an integer, we would assume that all the other variables are going to be declared. And it's a good idea to make your trace table by doing a first dry run through the code and writing the name of anything that appears into your table. So I should have a variable called new, and then on the next line I've got first, and then I've got second, which gets some values. So I'm going to put first and second. I've then got input n, so that should probably have its own line as well. And then I've got a loop for c is 0 to n minus 1. So we would need to have c. It's actually little c that we can see there. I've got an if with c in it. I've got new and c, so these are already in my table. I've got new, first and second. I've got first and second. I've got second and new. So all of these already exist. Then I've got output new, and I've got next C. Now I need to have a column for output as well. So let me maybe just add that here. And I will shrink up and just leave some space for these things. Okay, so I just follow the instructions. I've done my, we don't worry about declare. Declare is going to set up each of these boxes, and as I say, we should probably have had declares for first, second, n, and c as well. But my first actual line of code is first takes the value 0. So I go to first and I put a 0 in. And then I've got second takes the value 1. So second gets a 1. I've then got input n, and in the question it tells me to dry run this with an input of n equals 6. So I'm going to start and I'm going to put 6 in there. And notice I'm putting all of these on the same line as each other, because they're all different values being assigned. And then I've got for c equals 0 to n minus 1. Now at this stage it's probably a good idea to put into the heading the fact that c is going to be 0 to, and then n minus 1, well n is 6, so it's 0 to 5. And obviously c will start at 0. Okay, and now inside my loop I'm going to run this code. If c is less than or equal to 1, well c is 0, so I'm going to do this section here. New takes the value c. So new is going to take the value of c, which is 0. Now it might be worth at this stage, because we've entered a loop, to start a new row for our values that we're working with. So new taking the value c is happening in the loop, so I'm going to put a 0 there. I don't need to worry about the else code. I've dealt with the then part, so I can skip all over this to end if, and then I can output new. So on the same line, this has become my new line, and I put out a value of 0. Okay, I then get next C. So next C means that C becomes 1. And I'm going to put my 1 here to show that my loop has a new line. I go back up to, just moved the wrong thing there. I go back up here to my start of the loop. So my loop has gone up by 1. If C is less than or equal to 1, which it is, so I'm then going to say that new takes the value of C. So on this same line, I can do 1 goes into new. I ignore all of this stuff here, and then I output new. And new is 1, so I'm going to output 1 here. And then I get next C. So next C is going to put C up to 2. And I'm going to put that onto its own line to show that that's where a loop is starting. So that should become 2 there. I then ask, is C less than or equal to 1? Well, now it's not less than or equal to 1. So I skip over the then part and I go to the else part. New takes the value of first and second. So at this stage here, new is going to be 0 plus 1. So new is now 1 here. First takes the value of second. So first, which was 0, is now going to become 1. And notice I'm doing it on the same line that I'm working on. And second takes new. So second takes 1 there. I've reached the end of my block of code. I output new. At this stage, new is again 1. And I then do next C. So next C is going to send C to be 3. I've put that on its own line, and I'm going to work on this line now. I'm keeping an eye on the fact that it goes 0 to 5. So 3 is absolutely fine. I'm asking, is C less than or equal to 1? No. So I skip over the then part and I go to else. New takes the value of first plus second. So new for this line is going to be 1 plus 1, which is 2. First is going to take the value of second. So that is going to take the value 1. And second is going to take the value new. So that is going to be 2. So I've worked through each of these lines. And then I output new. So new at this stage is now 2. And then I do next C. So next C at this stage is going to take me to C equals 4. And that means that I'm starting my loop all over again. And then I say if C is less than 1, which it's not, so I skip over this and I go to the else part. And I say new takes the value first plus second. So new is going to take the value of 3. First takes the value second. So first becomes 2. And second takes the value of new. So second becomes 3. I'm finished with my if. I then output new. So I output 3 here. And then I do next C. So next C is going to put C up to 5. And 5, 0 to 5, that's okay. I'm still going to continue because I haven't gone beyond the end of the loop yet. C is not less than or equal to 1. So I come down to the else. New becomes first plus second. So new becomes 5. First becomes second, so that becomes 3. And second becomes new, so that becomes 5. I'm finished with that. I output new, so I output 5, and I go to next C. And next C is going to take me to C equals 6, at which point I would exit the loop. And because there's nothing else after the loop, then that is me finished. My output was 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. And you may not recognize this, but if I was to keep going, you can see that what I'm doing, and now I'm thinking about it rather than just following the instructions. I started with 0, and then I added 1. 0 plus 1 gives 1. 1 plus 1 gives 2. 2 plus 1 gives 3. 3 plus 2 gives 5. So the next number that would crop up would be 3 plus 5 is 8. And then 8 plus 5 is 13. And this is actually the Fibonacci sequence. So the Fibonacci sequence is a well-known mathematical sequence, and it crops up in lots of natural situations to do with, say, the length of parts of the body. So your wrists to your arm and your fingertips and so on, all these things are in a ratio that's derived from the Fibonacci sequence. Spirals on things like a nautilus shell or ferns, these follow the Fibonacci sequence, and a few other things as well. So recognizing this number pattern helps us to check our answer makes sense, but when we are using the tracing, we shouldn't really attempt to work out what's going on. We shouldn't just try and write the outputs ourselves. We follow the instructions and we make a new line each time we have changed a value. We don't float these numbers to the top. Notice there are gaps here. So we haven't moved these to the top of the line. We make a new line each time we do a loop. We make a new line each time we change a value, and that helps us to see where our answers are coming from. And that is how we trace an example of some pseudocode.